How's it going, guys? My name is Kanji FPL, and I just wanted to introduce my friend Ali. He's one of my closest friends, and we talk FPL all the time. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing good, bro. Yeah, so like you said, my name's Ali, and I've been a soccer fan or footy fan for over 15 years now. Been
Yeah,
playing FPL for around 2 years. First year, I got 160K OR. Last year, I got 45K. And I'm just looking to build on that.
those are actually incredible ranks, bro. Wow, you're actually destined for greatness, bro.
Thanks, man.
But the thing is, you're actually a Man United fan, so I don't know if you're destined for greatness, you know?
For sure. Yeah, being a United fan is tough, but that's why we have FPL to kind of put everything on the side.
All right, so let's just jump right into a Manchester United season review. So, how do you feel about the season? Like, what were your expectations coming in?
This was Ten Hag's first rebuild season where he was able to fully get control of the players he wants, get the players he wants. And we saw them get a decent finish in the table at third place. I still consider this to be a relatively not overperforming or underperforming. They played as expected to me. Their points that they got, their one trophy, no one really expected them to do anything better than that. And as the season went on, it got pretty bad. So there were some good moments and some not good moments. I would give it a rating of B minus.
B
And
minus.
what happens next year.
Yeah, but do you feel like you had a better season than Arsenal? I know you had your season where you actually had a trophy, you know?
Right. Yeah, that's a good question because I think it's about your expectations. So
Mhm.
Arsenal were expected to win the league and they failed miserably. Whereas United were expected to just out of the horrible last year from sixth place, they were just expected to get top four. And they did that without much pain. And they also got a trophy out of it. So I would say that United did have a better season.
Than Arsenal. That's actually mad. Like I totally disagree. I think Arsenal is like I think the expectations going in, I feel like they were just trying to get to top four. I guess it's just the way the season started, you know. They had like the first like 20 games, they had like 16 wins or something. So I
Right.
guess your expectations changed after that, right?
Right. Yeah. I've read the season progresses, right?
Yeah. Can you believe that Ronaldo was actually on the team this season?
No, that feels like a millennium ago, honestly. Like when he came, it was the biggest story. And since then, so much has changed.
Yeah. Are you a fan of Ten Hag and his tactics, or do you prefer like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer or maybe even Mourinho's tactics previously?
Yeah, since Ten Hag came in, I think there's been a lot more identity to the team. We've been able to see a lot more free-flowing passing, a lot more structure. It seems like the players are disciplined and know their roles. It seems like he has good player management. You could see that with how he treated Ronaldo, that no one is above the club. And these are qualities that I really liked in him.
All right, so let's just jump right into United's key players, bro. So what do you think about them?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think when you're looking at their world-class players, there's three that stand out for me. So number one was my MVP of the season, which was Rashford. He's extremely important in their attack, and without him, there's almost nothing that comes out of it. The second one is Bruno, who's the orchestrator for the team. Before he came in those early Ole times, the team was horrible, and he came and completely changed everything. He's so important to the team. He always has great plays, and he's a great assist maker. I would say my third key player is probably Shaw and the importance he has in attacking, especially from our back line. He's always proven to be a big threat, both in England squad and United squad, which just shows how essential he
Mhm.
is to the team. And maybe I would say for my fourth key player, I'll give it to Martinez. So
Mm.
before his arrival to the team, it was really known that United had a horrible backline. We were conceding like crazy. And then Ten Hag got his man from Ajax. He brought Martinez in, what he was worth, I would say. And there were so many doubts, but the way he's performed has been really amazing this season.
Yeah, he's just been really solid, I think, defensively. Varane, honestly, when he came to Man United, I was pretty disappointed because he came from Real Madrid and the defense, it was still garbage, even though Varane was there. I just had him on such a high level. But now that he has that partnership with Martinez, it's United have really taken that step forward. How do you feel about De Gea, though, as a keeper?
Man, De Gea has made me mad for many, many games now. And it's been like
Mm.
this for years, man. Even dating back to 2018 or before. Once upon a time, he was carrying the squad, but now he's more of a liability. And his time has honestly passed. I cannot
Yeah.
wait for him to be replaced. And I think we're trending in that direction.
Wow. All right. I honestly completely agree with you. I just don't know about that Martinez show. I mean, he was pretty solid throughout the season, but I guess just not that great against Liverpool, huh?
Yeah, no, everyone has their off games. That Liverpool was an off game for the entire squad, I'd say.
Yeah, something to keep in mind is that, Liverpool absolutely smacked Man United this season. And also Man City smacked Man United like 6-3. So I don't know about United's defense. Like, how do you feel about that in the big games? They seem to be really inconsistent.
No, for sure. And that's when it comes down to having a deep squad and a good leader at the back. Someone who's commanding, someone who's good in possession, someone who's good with distribution. And De Gea at the current moment has none of those abilities. So you put in a proper leader at the back. Names that I've heard include Onana, Costa, Raya from Brentford. These are all extremely good shouts for a replacement.
What about Man United's right back position?
We've seen a lot of inconsistencies at the right back this year. This is most likely a managerial decision because it's been switching between Delo and Wan-Bissaka. Personally, for me, I have no specific preference between the two. I think they both played their role well, and they're both worthy of being United players.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess the key pain point would be that striker position, bro. Like Martial and Weghorst. I mean, I don't know about that, man.
Yeah, it's been very tough relying on Martial because we all know how good he can be. We've seen him in numerous occasions really be clinical at his best. But because of his injuries, it's really been hard to rely on him. And when you're trying to replace him and you put someone like Weghorst who could barely make it out of Besiktas, like you're really not able to get results from that position.
Yeah, but you got to pay Weghorst some respect. He does a lot of pressing for the team, right? Like he works hard for the team. Like Ronaldo wasn't doing that, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's immediately something that I would say he does better than Ronaldo. And that was Ronaldo's biggest flaw, is his lack of defensive pressing. Weghorst does fill that gap, but there's still so many that he still needs to overcome in order to be actually worthy of being. He's good as a bench player, but I believe that United really do need another player at that ninth position in order to actually get something out of this year.
Do you think United are a better team without Ronaldo in it? Because, I mean, if I think about it after the World Cup, United's form really picked up, and it was more so in line with what Rashford was doing. And I'm just thinking, is United better off without him, maybe?
Yeah, that's really tough because if you're thinking about when he came into the team back in like 2021, he was 36 when he first joined the team. And in his time, you can think about it, like he had 19 goal involvements, which is pretty good at 36 years old. He had numerous clutch moments in his first game. In FPL, he was great. The European competitions, he was good.
Yeah, Champions League, he has some clutch goals. And then in the group stage, I remember some of those goals were crazy, man.
Exactly. Against Atalanta, amazing. But like you said, were they better off without him? I do think they are. As you grow older, obviously, you might see qualities that get worse, including his defensive abilities. And
for sure.
When Ten Hag requested it and Ronaldo didn't deliver, then yeah, it's time to go.
Yeah, I think with Ronaldo, it's just a case of sometimes you can just get more from less. It's one of those, when I think of United attack, I really think of Rashford. I think of Fernandes. I also included Saka in here so you could have a benchmark. Those are like the two key players. So I agree with you. If we just look at Bruno Fernandes's FPL returns, he only has 17 returns this season. Rashford had 24. But the thing is with Bruno is he had an XGI of 26.7 and Rashford had an XGI of 22. Right. So when people are looking on the FPL website, they're going to be like, hey, Fernandes had 180 points and Rashford had 200 points. I'm definitely going to go for Rashford over Bruno, right? Even though Rashford doesn't have penalties. People will look at Saka and be like, man, 200 points this season, that's going to be incredible. But if you look at the difference, like Saka has an XGI of 20. Rashford has an XGI of 22.6. Shouldn't Fernandes be the first player that comes to mind with a higher XGI?
I agree wholeheartedly with what you said. It's all about that difference that you see here, that minus 9.7. That's all related to how bad United's ninth striker is. You replace that striker, you put someone of quality, and you'll see that he'll start performing way better and he'll get way more goals or assists because 9.7 is significant. I don't think we see that anywhere across the league.
Yeah, it's similar to what like Havertz and Jesus have as strikers, What do you think about Rashford's form? So Rashford had an XGI of 18.8. Do you think that's going to be consistent for next season? Because over the past couple of seasons, it's just been so inconsistent. Like I feel like he's just been one of the best players in the league to one of like the mediocre players in the league, almost getting dropped last season, coming back and being this world beater again this year. I'm a big fan of Rashford for what he does on and off the pitch, but I just don't know if this is sustainable from an XG perspective. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that we all know he had an incredible year, and at his peak, throughout the year, he was one of the best in the world compared to the likes of Vinny. But we saw last year how he had a goal involvement of only 6, which
Wow.
is crazy, right? So I think going on into next year, I think that value of 6 was just a discrepancy in the data. I think he will continue showing the form that he has. If he keeps being healthy and if he keeps this work rate that he has, I think he will have an incredible year. But I do think that
Yeah.
changes with whoever they bring in, though.
Right. So let's say Man United go out there and they sign Harry Kane, right? I don't really believe that's going to happen because I think the Spurs manager just realizes how important Kane is to their survival. They might be in a relegation battle if they sell Kane, you know? Let's say Man United sign Kane. Like, what would happen to Fernandes and Rashford? What would be the impacts there?
Yeah, that's a good question. And honestly, it's so annoying from Spurs' perspective because Levy just does not want to get rid of his main man. And like you said, I don't think we will get Kane, but let's say we did. If we did get a world-class striker, someone of Kane's caliber that's on pens, you will see dips in both Bruno and Rashford's form. Like we said, that XA of Bruno Fernandes increase. He will get more assists, but he will get fewer goals out of penalties. So I think that's going to offset each other.
Yeah, but I feel like that dip, because he had that minus 9.7, maybe that would be smaller, right? If they had a better finisher up top, right?
But I definitely think that if they got a world-class striker on the team, that's the guy you would go for in your FPL team instead
Over
of
Fernandes and Rashford.
yeah, based
Wow.
on price of the players for sure.
Yeah, because I mean, if Kane came in there, he'd be like 12.5, and I guess it would be pretty template to be going Kane and Holland at that point, right?
Right, for sure. And I'm not sure if you remember, but when Ronaldo first joined the team, the very first thing that I did, and I'm not sure if you did, but I had Fernandes in my team. I sold him. I got Ronaldo. Ronaldo bagged 2 goals and he kept going on a form, right? So that's kind of what happens.
Yeah. Did you actually triple captain Rashford or Holland this season
This year, I triple captained Rashford, I believe.
in that double game week with Palace
Yeah,
and Leeds?
yeah, which worked out.
Yeah, man, he was on fire, bro. I think he had like a return in the last like 5, 6, 7, 8 games before that too. And then that double game week was just so obvious. Like Crystal Palace and Leeds, like how could you not triple captain Rashford there?
But it's also such a 50-50, right? Because then you're wondering, do you go for Fernandes? But if you went for Fernandes, you're going to get absolutely huge red arrows, right?
Yeah,
So,
because of the underperformance. Yeah, for sure. Isn't it crazy that Holland was clearly like the best FPL player, but we still ended up triple captaining Rashford? Isn't that nuts?
yeah, it's definitely in the heat of the moment. You're going with whoever's in form. And in that moment, Rashford was playing out of this world. And the games of Palace, for instance, they're really bad defensively. So it just made sense.
And then I guess the last question is like, let's say Fernandes, Rashford, and Saka are the same price. Fernandes and Saka are on pens. Let's say United don't sign a world-class striker. Who would be the pick for your FPL squad in game week 1? Obviously, let's assume the fixtures are the same.
Yeah, that's a good question. So my first thing I'll say is that Bruno ended at around 9.5. Saka was around 8. Are they going to be the same? I personally don't think so. I think that what I would go for is because they're both quality. It's whoever you can afford because of how good these players are. Maybe you simply cannot afford Bruno, then I would definitely go Saka. But if you can afford Bruno, I would get Bruno.
If they're the same price, though, where would you go?
If they're the same price and let's say nothing changes to the teams, I would that's a really good question. I'll have to go and say Bruno. He's very nailed. Man plays every game. We thought he was injured once. It was on the IG story and he still played the next game. He's on pens. He's got an insane goal involvement. I think I'd go with him.
Yeah, same. I guess that's just like a spreadsheets vibe. Like the grass people are going to be on Saka for sure. I could tell you that. That might be a really popular decision for game week 1. I was already looking at the fixtures for next year, and that's a really big decision. I'm assuming both of them are going to be the same price. All 3 of these guys are going to be the same. Picking like 2, trying to fit in Salah in there, Kane in there. It's going to be really tough next year. I'm expecting price rises for all 3 of these guys.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be very difficult, especially at the beginning. You're going to see some absolutely huge swings from everyone. But yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be really fun. And I think something that's also not considered is, and we saw this a bit throughout the last year, was how Martinelli kind of cannibalized some of those points out of Saka. And a lot of the attack was flowing through Martinelli. You saw Trossard get in there as well. Gabriel Jesus. You had Odegaard get a lot of goals. Whereas if you look at United, you just got Bruno, and you have Rashford, right?
For sure. What do you think about Anthony, by the way?
Yeah, that's a good question. So what I will say is that based on the amount of that we've spent on him, he has underperformed so far.
Mm.
But I think that since it was only his first season, I think you still need to give him time.
And then what about Garnacho? I feel like he really emerged in some games. He was really clutch. There was a point where I saw Garnacho was playing the left wing, and I feel like that was Rashford's primary position. Do you think Garnacho and Rashford can really be in the same team together and United perform on a higher level?
Yeah, that's a good question. Honestly, I love Garnacho. I love what he brings, and he's had great moments, including when he scored versus Fulham using his speed. This
Mm.
was his breakout year, both for the Argentinian team and United. And I looked at the stats, and Garnacho and Rashford played together for only 755 minutes this season, which is equivalent to around 8 games. And in that time, they only had 2 goals between themselves. They don't play together often, but when they do, honestly, I don't really like the combination of Rashford and Garnacho together.
That could just be correlation. I don't know if that's causation, though, you know?
Right, for sure. For next season, I see Garnacho playing a similar role that he had to this year. This year, he was playing around 25, 30 minutes a game. I think this will continue because we need the depth, right? We're going to play so many games with all the tournaments that are approaching. So it's important to have that deep bench, and that's where Garnacho will be able to take some of Rashford load.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I think we talked a lot about United's attack, but let's move on to the more interesting point, which is going to be United's defense. So thinking about their defense, I wouldn't touch on Saka in FPL. It's just too much rotation risk. The key guy was Shaw for sure. And he ended with 5 FPL goals and assists. And if we're just comparing that just to the other nailed defenders in the other teams in the top, the big 6, I'd go with Gabriel. He had 3. Diaz from Man City was probably the most nailed Man City defender. He didn't have any attacking returns. Trippier had 10. Trent had 13. Obviously, Trippier and Trent are going to be at a higher price. I feel like Shaw is probably going to be priced in the same range as Gabriel and Diaz. I think Shaw's minutes at 2,500 was low because he just had some injuries that he was picking up here and there. I feel like he's pretty much nailed for Man United. Even when there's like injuries to the center back, Shaw will be filling in there. So he's really important to the team. I think he's someone you can definitely rely on in FPL. But just looking at it from an FPL points perspective, like Liverpool had a terrible season this year, and Trent's still finishing with 150 points, where I feel like United kind of overperformed their XGC. Like they had an expected goals of 50 and conceded 43. So they were a plus 7.3. And Shaw still isn't that close to what Trent can do in terms of FPL points. And I guess that has to do with potentially attacking output as well. Because like 13 versus 5, obviously I'm comparing him to one of the best like right backs in the league. But I was just thinking like, at what price do you think Shaw has to be for him to be like a set and forget option in FPL?
That's a good question. So like you said, Trent in my books is just a field above everyone else. It's really hard to compare. And the way I see Shaw, the way I see Trippier, is that there's some players like your Trents, your Haalands, that you can have in your team and you can just keep him there. You don't need to move him out. But there are some players like Trippier and Shaw where when United have dips in form, these guys feel a great load and you will not get any FPL results out of them. So there are definitely times when I would say that these 2 players are fixture-based players, right? Like you only want them for certain fixtures. If we're looking at an actual price that's kind of set and forget, Shaw ended this year at a price of around 5.3. I think a price of 5.5 is really fair. It's because of how nailed you mentioned it, right? Like Dalot, Wan-Bissaka, they're going to be switching. The center backs, Varane's getting older. He gets injured. Martinez, he doesn't have much attacking potential. So Shaw is really the guy if you're going for United.
But let me press you a little bit more. So what if Arsenal and Man United have the same fixtures? And I'm thinking about Gabriel, who has the big attacking threat from corners and free kicks, versus Shaw, who's more creative. If they have the same fixtures, wouldn't you want to go for the team that just has like less XGC? Especially putting this in context where Saliba was injured for the second half of the season, and I feel like Arsenal's defense is probably going to be better next year than it was this year. Do you feel like Shaw is still the pick above Gabriel, assuming the fixtures are the same?
That's a good question. I do think that in this case, you have to go with whoever has the better defense. And honestly, I had Gabriel a few times throughout the year, and he did deliver, not only with the clean sheets, but also his attacking potential from a center back position is actually very valuable. So I would choose Gabriel over Shaw.
What about Man City? Because Man City, they have the least XGC. Like they have the best defense, and it's so clear. It's obvious that Man City's defense is the best in the league. And assuming, Man City have nailed defenders, right? Would you potentially go for a Diaz over Shaw if they were the same price?
Yeah, so I'll take you back to last year when City had a healthy backline, because this year there was many injuries and so much rotation, right? So that's why we couldn't really get that City defender. However, last year when Diaz was healthy, I had him in my team and it was great, right? Because he's nailed, because City are so good defensively, it really was valuable. So I think that Diaz is probably the best City pick, because when you're looking at players like Ederson, who has time and time again let us all down from an FPL perspective,
Yeah.
I think that this guy who's nailed and who has shown good results in the past, when we're looking 2 years ago, he's the guy to go for.
So if Shaw and Diaz are the same price, you're going to go Diaz.
Correct. Yeah. City are just
Wow.
a different beast defensively. They continue to be the best team defensively on all stats.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree. I would probably pick Gabriel and then I would go Shaw and then I'd go Diaz. I don't know. I just don't really trust Man City defenders, bro. I feel like the upside is just so low and there's just so much risk. I don't know. Maybe with Diaz, maybe. With Stones, maybe, because he's also playing in that midfield role. But I don't know, man. It's just, is it really worth the rotation risk with Pep, man, for a team to just pick up, 6 points in defense? I feel like it's more worth the risk if you're going for someone like Foden or Grealish, who could be more explosive, don't you think?
So when you're looking at Pep roulette, that's always going to be a factor, right? But I do think that Diaz, if he's healthy, is going to play almost every game. And then the games you don't, you live with that, right? You live with your decisions because you know that you're going to get those results. I know for a fact that when City faced Brentford, I'm more confident that Diaz will get that clean sheet versus when Shaw faces Brentford. And when Shaw did face Brentford, Brentford won 4-0.
Yeah, there's a lot of inconsistency with Man United. I feel like Man City are just they're so easy to predict in that sense. But that's the thing, bro. Like they were just conceding these easy goals. They'd be up 3-0, and then they would just concede this long range goal from outside the box, or like one counterattack shot on target and it's going in. Ederson is ridiculous, bro. But I feel like City had just so much negative variance this year. Is probably going to normalize and be a little bit better next year. I don't know, man. I'd still probably pick. I don't know. I don't know. I might lean Shaw over Diaz just because of the rotation risk, but that's just me.
Yeah, I think another thing to mention is the addition of Guardiol. If he comes in for that center back position, that does complicate things, right? For that rotation. So I think we'll see with that too.
I mean, Laporte was there though. Like he's basically just replacing Laporte in the squad, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But I mean, if you're going to pay that much money, that guy's probably going to want minutes. So
Right. And he's so good. You saw it in the World Cup. That guy's a beast.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. But that's about it for Manchester United and attack and defense. I guess the key question is going to be like going forward. What do you think about the transfers that United need in order to take that next step forward? I mean, they went from fifth or sixth last season to third this year. And to be honest, there was a big drop off between first and second and third. Like there was a big drop off. I know, the money you get from the Premier League, everything's not that big of a difference, but it's just, I felt like I don't think United really had any chance at the title, whereas Arsenal kind of did.
I did not like United's play this year. I think at third, they overperformed. I think they need 3 players. The first is the world-class striker. And without it, you're not even going to touch top 4. Everything else is irrelevant, right? You need that striker to get the goals. You can't just rely on Rashford or Fernandes. The second is a proper box-to-box midfielder. And we've seen that Ten Hag's been chasing this for a while in that pivot or that deeper number 6 role. I think that who they could get is someone like Caicedo from Brighton. If they're able to get him, I see him really elevating this team.
Yeah, he's really good, man. Like under Robert De Zerbi, bro, his tactics are so great. They're playing so well, and that guy's so instrumental. I think I remember watching Brighton versus Man United, and he was the one that was actually guarding Rashford. He played like right back that game or something weird.
Nah, he's actually insane as a player. I saw the stats and he had over the season, he had an 87% passing rate with 75% tackling success, which at a midfielder is amazing. I think that if you get those changes, if you get those transfers that I said, you can easily be top 2. I don't think they win the league yet. I think City are just too strong. But if you don't do any changes in the transfer market, I see us struggling again for top 4. The other teams are all getting stronger. Newcastle are getting stronger. Liverpool's stronger. Arsenal and City are strong. So these transfers need to happen.
Yeah, I think there's a chance he might drop out of the top four if you don't sign like a proper striker. I just think there's so much variance that happens in football. I wouldn't be surprised because, United overperformed their XGC. Like they had a better defense than what they should have had. So, I mean, going forward, if they don't get a striker, bro, they're going to be in trouble, man.
Yeah. And this all ties down to the ownership, right? Like if United are able to get it out of Glazer's hands and into proper ownership who's willing to invest into proper players, then I cannot wait to see where this team goes.
Yeah, for sure, man. Do you think you guys could challenge for the title?
I would say it's going to take around another 2 years, 2 or 3 years before we challenge.
Damn.
Unless we get Kane. If we get Kane, maybe.
Yeah, bro, that guy's so good, man.
He
He's
makes
so
any
good.
team a championship contender other than the Spurs. You put him in any other top six team, and yeah, they're going all the way.
Yeah, honestly, he's world class, man. And you can even see the link up between Kane and Rashford in England. Like they're so great. Shaw and Rashford and Kane. There's just so much chemistry there. I would love to see that, but it is what it is. I'm just a fan. I'm a dreamer.
Yeah, for sure. Me too.
You know what? I just want to say thank you so much for spending the time with me. I appreciate you coming on the channel. You've been supporting me throughout this whole journey as well, and I really appreciate your insight, man. You're very knowledgeable. You also had a really great start, bro. Only 2 years, and you're already finishing in the top like 50K. Like that's unbelievable. I can't wait to see what happens to you from FPL next year.
Yeah, for sure, man. Thank you so much. Yeah, can't wait for the next season of FPL. Trying to improve every single year, and I can't wait to see how you grow and how the channel grows. So keep it up.
Thank you so much, bro. I appreciate you, man. Manchester United had an incredible season last year, and I can't wait for what's going to happen next season. If I provided some value to you, please drop a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all again soon. Peace.